All right, Dr. Brown, Music
What's
Maniacs is
up?
live. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. Everything is going well. Just feeling a little bit under the weather, but I'm still here to do the show with you.
Well, good. Did you a few news pieces? Did you mind? I don't know if you have any pieces from Blabbermouth or anything, but the biggest news is
Yeah, I heard about this.
The
Yeah,
Megadeth
I heard
thing.
about this.
The
Yeah,
Megadeth
I heard
thing.
about this.
Where'd you hear it from? When did you hear it? Tell us all about that, please.
Well, I heard about it on just a few minutes ago on Facebook. I'm looking it up right now. Megadeth have announced it that their next tour is going to be their final tour. And let me get this thing going here. It's going to be their final tour. They're going to call it quits afterwards. And here's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to go to Variety magazine and Variety.com. And it says here, but Dave Mustaine has announced that the long-running speed metal band that he started after being booted from Metallica, that their coming 2026 tour will be their official last tour. The announcement in a social post directly shared with his fans and Cyber Army featured the band's mascot and Mustaine's alter ego, Rick Rattlehead, speaking for the first time. He said, however, the statement is from Mustaine himself. He said, there are so many musicians have come to the end of their career, whether it's by accidental or intentional. Most of them don't get to go out with on their own terms on top. That's where I'm at in my life. Right now, I have traveled the world and have made millions upon millions of fans. And the hardest part of this is saying goodbye to them. I can't wait for all of you to hear this album and see us on tour. They got a new album coming out soon. If there was a perfect time for us to put out a new album, it is now. If there ever was a perfect time to tour the world, it is now. This is also a perfect time for us to tell you that it's our last studio album. We made a lot of friends over the years. I'm hoping to see you, all of you, on our global farewell tour. Don't be mad. Don't be sad. Be happy for us all. Come celebrate with me these next few years. So going to be on the road for the past next couple of years on this farewell tour because obviously there are so many Megadeth fans out there going to hightail out there to which venue they're going to be playing. We have done something together that's truly wonderful and will probably never happen again. We started a music style, we started a revolution, we changed the guitar world and how it's played, and we changed the world. Bands I played in have influenced the have influenced the world. I love you all for it. Thank you for everything. Now, we all know how Megadeth started. It started in 1983 after Mustaine was brutally kicked out of Metallica, and he started as a rival project to get back at Metallica for the way they gave him the boot, as cruelly as it was. They could have taken it up and say, "Hey, you got problems with your drinking. We need to settle that first and foremost." But they just said, "Hey, get the fuck out of here. We're tired of you drinking. We're going to be hitting on the next bus before you even know what the fuck happened to you." And that would spark a long ass feud between the two sides
Watch that
of
language
how
on the show, brother.
parents.
So watch the language, please.
Mm. But either way, Megadeth, released their first album, "Killing Is My Business" and "Business Is Good" in 1985, and they followed up with their major label debut, "Peace Sells, But Who's Buying?" And from then on, they've been releasing albums, including the album "Countdown to Extinction," which was a massive hit around 1992 with the song "Sympathy of Destruction." That was a massive hit. And also, by the way, you got to check out the long remix by Trent Reznor's from Nine Inch Nails.
Did you now the dates aren't released? You know,
Not
like
yet.
where it shows the venues it's going to be at, and not even any ticket sales. But this is going to be 2026. It's not going to be 2025.
Next year. Yes.
So it's going to be a while. But what do you think? Do you think they're going to bring back Dave Ellefson? Is there any members that were like the lineup now, besides Dave Ellefson not being there, right? Is there any of the original founding members in the band besides
Mustaine?
Mustaine that you know
No.
of?
It's Mustaine is the only one original member remaining in the group. You remember it was Dave Mustaine, Dave Ellison. It was a guy named forgot his name, Chris Pullen. He was the lead guitarist, and Gar something that whose last name I cannot pronounce. Gar passed away. Gar passed away a few years back. Chris Pullen was let go from the group, and he's been doing his whole project since that. Dave Ellison has been let go from the band a few years ago because of that indecent situation that he got himself into. And of course, so it's been Dave Mustaine since that. The same thing with Wasp, Blackie Wallace.
I wonder if they're going to bring back any. Well, is there any original members that died?
Yeah, that Gar drummer,
Okay.
the drummer Gar, somebody. What's his face? God, let me look him up right now. Gar drummer, Gar Samuelson. He died in 1999 in Orange City, Florida. He played with Megadeth from 1984 to 1997. He also was a jazz drummer. And so basically, he was he's basically was a good drummer without any question to that. Doesn't say what he died from, but wow, it's a trip.
Well, that is big news. They're also coming out with that album. I don't know if that is going to be the last album.
It is, yes.
It is confirmed. Interesting.
Yes, it is. Yes, you're going to be called it quits after this album and tour coming up next year.
That's huge.
Very huge. I mean, like, wow, because both Metallica, Megadeth, Slayer, and Anthrax are considered the big four of the thrash metal scene in the early 80s. They're like pioneers of the genre. They've been out there, they're speeding it up for how many years? And so, what do you think Dave Mustaine is going to be doing after this tour ends, if it ends? Because usually farewell tours like Kiss or they spend how many years on the road? You think he's going to come out with a solo project? He's going to retire? He's going to focus on business or whatever it is? What do you think he's going to be doing?
He's going to reach. He's retiring. I mean, it's his band, so it's his call, and you know what I'm saying. They're going to get their last. I mean, they'll make millions off this tour. That should be a world tour. I don't know. The last tour they did, I don't know if it was a world tour or not, but they did a tour like a couple years ago. I mean, is it something I'm going to go to? Probably not, but it depends on who's opening. I mean, if it's like Judas Priest and Megadeth or Metallica Megadeth, it'll never be Metallica Meg because it'll be Megadeth headlining, but we'll see. You know what I mean? But really, the bigger news, I mean, that's big news that came out today, but the Kiss news.
Yeah, that's right. Donald Trump, our current president, is going to be inducting KISS, all four original members, Gene, Paul, Ace, Peter, into the Kennedy Center Honors. They're going to be doing that pretty soon, if I understand it, which is big because, KISS earned a spot. They've been around for how many years? They've influenced countless of bands, countless of performers, countless of everything you could think of. I mean, they've been around for many years and they still have a profound influence on musicians and showmen, showwomen to this very day. Very big, In fact, it'll be interesting to see. Now, is your four original members going to be performing together at this ceremony?
Well, they're saying, I mean, this is more of like a tribute. So, like, remember last year, a couple years ago, they had Hart perform for Led Zeppelin.
Yep. Barack Obama was the MC for that
So
event.
you had that, and then so but see, the thing is, Trump is going to host this.
Hmm.
Trump is controlling everything. He's changing it around. So, like, by with the history of the program, no, the artists don't perform themselves, but with Trump in control, we may see like them perform, because in his speech, in Trump's speech, it's going to be the four guys there, for
Hmm.
sure, original. And Trump said they'll have a surprise, something along the lines of that. They have a surprise for you guys, like pre-show or something. Like
Hmm.
he really did hint that they're probably gonna perform, bro. Like
Wow.
that's what that means. Like he didn't just announce that they're gonna be the recipient of this award, blah blah blah. But he said, and Kiss has a surprise for you guys. You might, insinuating that they will perform. And I'm not seeing a lot of people talking about that. They're just putting it down that it's not going to be them performing, because with the history of the program, it's others performing for them while they're sitting up in the
Yeah.
stands watching.
Like
But
they
see
did
what I'm
with
saying?
Led Zeppelin.
Yeah, so I'm saying it might be different because Trump is, fixing, or doing things different on that. But that is huge news. Like, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they? It could be like, oh, they don't want to reunite to perform, but they'll reunite for these awards, and they have no problem with that. It could
Hmm.
be that, and it could be they don't end up performing. But Trump said they have a surprise for you guys. Like, he said something about pre-show or before it, or something like before the event, or it might not even be during the event, but like something that they're gonna like. They have a surprise for what? Like, what does that mean? And none other. They'll perform, Dr. Brown.
Hmm. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe Nick Simmons and Evan Stanley are going to do some Kiss songs for their fathers. Those are Gene and Paul's boys there.
Yeah,
I've seen them do some songs together, which they were top notch at doing.
Dr.
Who knows
Biscuit.
what could happen?
Did
What's a,
you? So there were 10 singers in Black Sabbath. Is that true?
I'm not too sure. They've been. I'm not sure. Let's see here. There was Ozzy Osbourne, Ronnie James Dio, Ian Gillan. They had this one guy, Dave Donato. We got to get to his story. It was a very short one, but very, very interesting. There was also Glenn Hughes. He only lasted a tour, half a tour with them. There was Ray Gillan, who's no longer with us. They had this other person named Jeff something. I guess he only did some demos with them. And of course, Tony Martin was sang on 5 of those albums, starting from The Eternal Idol from
So
1987 to Infinity.
we're going for albums, not necessarily like, because Rob Halford technically sang for them, but
Yeah,
not
so
an album.
performance. Yeah, yeah, he is a fill-in. He filled in as their singer twice. Back in 1982 at Ozzy's supposed farewell show in Costa Rica, California. He was a fill-in for Ronnie James Dio, who wasn't able to make it. And he also filled in for Ozzy, who was very, very sick around that time. He did a couple and two shows with them. And the fact that you were not aware of this until I gave you the details. You looked it up for yourself. You're like, wow, I never knew about this. Wow. Huh.
Yeah, because I looked it up and it said 10 people were on that list. And then
Yeah.
you named a
Wow.
bunch, and I didn't even know that. So, like, I mean, obviously, let's start with Ronnie James Dio. Do you know did like, how did that come about? Did like they reach out to them? Did the fans want him in? Did like,
Mm.
obviously he already he had his own thing with Rainbow. Did he have a solo career? As we
after
know,
they after they let Ozzy go in 1979 because of the excessive drug use and the way Ozzy was acting around that time. You know how people are when they're high on drugs at the time, 24/7. They're difficult to deal with, let alone work with. So they let him go. Tony Iommi made the decision. He was the one running that ship around that time. Bill Ward was given the task of letting him go by phone call. It didn't feel like a band no more, according to Geezer Butler. And that's when I guess they ran into Ronnie James Dio, who had just left Rainbow. Now, they got together, did some session work, and then boom, they decided, hey, let's go to the studio together, and they recorded a new album as Black Sabbath. So, boom. As a result, Heaven and Hell was recorded and released in towards the fall of 1980
Heaven and
became
Hell
a
is
big hit.
Heaven and Hell. The album is better than a lot of Ozzy Sabbath albums. I feel
Really?
like you can put Heaven and Hell up against a lot of the Sabbath era, and it'll beat it. But everyone goes to obviously their favorite era is Ozzy because the Dio era was only 2 albums, correct?
Actually, there was three studio albums and 1 live album. After Heaven and Hell, they released Mob Rules in 1981, which to me was a more powerful album than Heaven and Hell.
What? No way. Heaven and no,
What?
really?
No,
Sign of the Southern Cross. Sign of the Southern
great
Cross.
song. Badass song. Badass song. It was a lot more powerful
Obviously, the title
production.
track, Mob Rules,
Yep.
right? What else was on there that was good?
Country Girl, Turn Up the Night, Voodoo, Over and Over, Falling Off the Edge of the World. Very powerful album.
Okay, so what's the track song on Heaven and Hell? Heaven and Hell, Neon Nights.
Yes.
Neon Nights, Dr. Brown.
Yep.
I mean, look, Heaven and Hell is getting. I mean, I know it's been around forever, but like, I feel like Heaven and Hell, the song, you hear it a lot more nowadays. What's the standard song that people hear? Dio era Ozzy though, would it be Heaven and Hell in your opinion, or what would you say?
Absolutely, that's the standard song because that song was all over radio around the year it came out, which was in the fall of 1980. It was on every rock radio station you could think of, and it was just, which is good because now Sabbath are now able to get into going in a few directions they were not able to go to with Ozzy, which they did. That album.
What was the third album?
Well, the third album was Dehumanizer. That came out in 1992.
What about Neon Nights, the song? What do you think about that?
Pretty damn good song.
Come on, man. Come on.
It was a damn badass.
What other? Okay, name the rest of the Heaven and Hell album songs, please.
Okay, well, the album started with Neon Nights, then Children of the Sea, then Lady Evil, and the title cut, which was, as I mentioned, been on the radio since forever. Walk Away, well, Wish You Well starts off on side 2, Die Young, Walk Away, and then Lonely Is the Word, which is a kind of like a lonesome blues thing there.
Bro, that beats the hell out of Mob Rules album. Come on. What'd you say? Children of the Sea?
Children of the Sea.
Oh my God, Brown.
Powerful song.
That's what I'm saying.
Now think about this. The live album Live Evil that came out in 1982. There were a lot of issues going on. Members to be accused left and right of coming into the studio and making their parts louder than the others. Like, for example, Roddy was accused of messing with the controls. But then again, there was a lot of drinking and a lot of stuff going on at that time.
Now, Geddy Lee, we covered the Ozzy era of Sabbath last week.
Yes,
we covered Ozzy's solo albums the week before. This week we're covering all the other singers of Sabbath. Next week we're going to cover all the guitarists Ozzy had in studio and on tour, which would be a good idea, right, Brown? You think about that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
Um, did you hear? Real quick sidebar. Did you hear TNA might be going against AEW on Wednesdays?
Oh, really? Interesting.
TNA is basically under the WWE umbrella now. It's
Mm,
like it's almost like not necessarily WWE has little mini territories, but they own the other major brands,
hmm
TV brands and wrestling besides AEW. I mean, obviously NXT's their brand, but
hmm
like, look, TNA's commentators I think are the best.
mm.
They have really good commentary. I couldn't name you their names. Um, I couldn't name any talent on TNA at this point, to be honest with you, Brown. But
Wow.
they need to do better on, you know what I mean? But like, because I only been watching it for a couple weeks. But
Wow. Interesting.
listen, Geddy Lee is a big Aussie head. Look, there's a lot I'm gonna learn tonight with Dr. Brown and these other singers. You're gonna have to cover a lot of that, Brown. I mean, try not to be too
I
long
know.
on each singer because there's a lot of them.
Yes. Yes.
But
hmm
on the what I know from Dio, did he have his Dio solo band? Was that after or before his Black Sabbath era stint?
This was after his Black Sabbath stint. Remember, he departed in 1982 after that fallout during the mixing of Live Evil, and that's when he decided, I'm going to get myself a new band, come up with my own material. Rainbow in the Dark being one of them. The Last in Line a year later,
Where did that
in
song come out? Rainbow of the Dark.
1983.
All right, so
The
it was
album
around.
Holy Diver. Holy Diver was the first album, and to this day, that album gets played.
Look, Brown. I mean, really, that's really a hot. It's not necessarily a hot take because they're good albums, but like I would think you would have liked the Heaven and Hell album better. I
Well,
like it better. Mob Rule still has some good stuff, but like if someone was like, yeah, I want to listen to the Dio era Sabbath. I've never listened to it before. I'm gonna give them the Heaven and Hell album, or I'm gonna give
well,
them the Heaven and Hell CD. You know,
mm,
but Brown. What about the Dehumanizer album? What songs on there do you like? Were there any on the
oh,
radio? Were there any that we might
well,
know?
the only one I remember was Time Machine, and that was because it was featured in the first Wayne's World movie around 1991. And there are other gems from that
Really?
release was, yeah, other gems include Computer God, Master of Insanity, I, Too Late, Buried Alive. It's a very powerful album when you look at it there. I mean, the three studio albums they did with the Dio were all powerful equally.
All right. So what's the deal? Who came in after Dio left?
Oh, Ian Gillan. And that started out by accident. Apparently, Geezer and Tony were drinking at a pub. Ian Gillan from Deep Purple just happened to join them. And then the next
Now,
morning, Gillan,
Ian
from
Gillan
Deep
was
Purple,
the original singer from Deep Purple.
yes. Well, no,
Oh,
he wasn't the original singer. They had somebody else before he joined the group.
was he
Remember,
the classic lineup singer that everyone knows of on Smoke on the Water and everything, or no?
yes, yeah, the Mark II
Okay.
lineup.
Wow.
Mark II lineup, according to ARC. And
Now,
apparently, what it was is
was
that,
he still in Deep? Was he still in Deep Purple all the time, or why did he leave Deep Purple? Or
no, no, he would depart because things didn't really work out between the two sides, and then he would reunite with Deep Purple, and he would keep the reunion permanent. But apparently, what the story was is that all three, Gillen, Butler, and Iommi, were drinking at a pub on one night, and then the next morning, Gillen gets a call from his agent and saying, "You got to make a decision right now." So, what are you talking about? Well, last night you joined Black Sabbath. apparently, Gillian had to come in, learn how to sing the songs they did with Ozzy and Dio. And of course, they recorded the album Born Again, one of my
Oh, so
favorites.
on their live set, can you oh man, on their live sets they did Dio and Ozzy era Sabbath.
Yep, absolutely. They
Did
did
he
Heaven
do?
and Hell. Yes,
Was there an Ian Gillan album with original
yes,
Ian Gillan? What was that
yeah. There
called?
was yeah, Born Again, which came out in 1983. That was one of my favorites from them because to me,
Oh,
it was like metal at its finest, loud, fast, obnoxious, in your damn face. And it was still one of my favorites today. But the problem is the rest of the band members didn't really like it. They said the production wasn't up to their quality, up to their taste. And from what I understand now, a couple of years ago, they found the original master tapes to Board Again, and I guess Tony is going to possibly do some remixing on it.
yeah, I heard that. Is he still alive,
Yeah,
Ian Gillan?
yes, he is. He's still with Deep Purple.
Hmm.
I guess they put out another record. Guess not a couple of years back. But they would get together. Tony Iommi and Gillen would get together to do some sort of called a couple other projects. I mean, most bands were tight and respectful of one another. For example, I'm sure you heard this story from Mouth Gamer. Zeppelin and Sabbath were friends with one another. In fact, there was reportedly a secret jam that they did together somewhere in England. Too bad it was never recorded. Definitely would love to hear that. That's for sure. So, and during that time, they
They
came
only
up
did
with,
one. They only did one studio album with Ian Gillan.
yeah, Born Again, 1983. That was it.
Why did he lead the band? What was that problem?
Well, because the chemistry between the two sides wasn't really working. I mean, remember, this was came about over a night of drinking. And Bill Ward, the drummer, he just was trying to keep himself clean. He wasn't able to tour them because of that. So they got Bev Bevan from ELO as their drummer for that whole tour. He was a fill-in. Now, after
Now, do you,
this, we got this.
now from the singer so far, do you will you're still gonna fall on Ozzy?
Well, listen. Well, I will say this. Sabbath had had some tremendous great singers, including the ones I just mentioned, and the
No,
ones that are
everyone
going to
has
be
their
mentioned
favorites
later
though.
on.
Everyone has their favorites. Like, did the Ozzy era really, blow your mind, or did the Dio era blow your mind? Like, what really like, or was it all pretty much like you liked it all?
Liked it all. Now, from Ian Gillan, they got this one guy, David Donato, who unfortunately did only a couple photo shoots with him. He was never able to record any album because apparently there was so much confusion within the Sabbath ranks. First, he heard from a grapevine that Geezer didn't like him. Then later, he heard that Bill Ward didn't like him. And then he heard from the grapevine that this person didn't like him, that person didn't like him. One of the first things he was told was like from Tony to say, "Hey, I'm going to need you to sing on my solo record," because he was planning on doing that sometime soon. I'm like, wait a minute, I thought it was going to be Black Sabbath. And finally, in the end, he simply said, "Hey, I there's too much confusion. I can't keep this up. See you guys. Have fun. Good luck to all of you." And that's pretty much about it.
What year was this when he left?
But this was in 1984. And
Ah,
like I said, there was no recorded material with him. Now, let me also throw this in there. They had a dude named Dave Walker as their singer briefly while Ozzy first departed between Technical XC and Never Say Die. Ozzy had to get himself together. So when he got this other singer, Dave Walker, they did some demos for songs that would later turn up for Never Say Die. And that was about it. Just those demo tracks. About it. Nothing else. Now,
Oh, because they thought he was like Ozzy was doing bad or something.
Ozzy was like Ozzy was going through a lot of issues with drugs and everything else. Like for example, according to Tony in one interview during the early '80s, when Technical Ecstasy came out, he didn't want to do any songs from it, none from it at all. He was
How old
getting
was
messed
Ozzy
up.
when he died? How old was Ozzy when he passed?
He's 76.
Mm. You only got like 10 years left, Brown. To your
I know,
70.
yeah, yeah, I know, yeah.
Live
Well,
it up. You
well,
went to that
actually,
damn golf club. You went to that golf club last weekend. You caught a cold, messing with them women.
no, not really. The cold was later earlier this week.
Ah.
Yeah, everything is
Um.
superb afterwards. Yeah.
All right. So what else with the singers? How many more singers? List them in.
Well, let's see here. After Donato, Black Sabbath was pretty much all done. Geezer Butler decided, to me, there's only two singers to defy Sabbath,
Oh, hey, I was going to
Ozzy
ask you
and
this
Neil.
too. Let me ask you this question. In the 90s, and maybe the late 80s, but predominantly the 90s, did Geezer Butler play for Ozzy solo?
No, he
Oh.
actually played in the '90s and the later half of the '80s. He
Who?
played on he played with Ozzy for the No Rest for the Wicked tour. And he
Yes, I
also
knew
played with
it.
them
I
again.
saw some
Yes.
footage and it looked like Geezer Butler on bass in the
He was,
90s. You could
yeah.
tell it was like good, 90s kind of better footage. Um, it was commercial footage, like professional footage for the 90s, so it was good. And Geezer Butler on stage playing bass,
Hmm.
black
Yep.
mustache and everything. It looked like him. And you could
Yep, it
tell it was from
was
the
him. Yes.
90s. I was like, wow,
Hmm.
that was cool. Tell me about that real quick, because I didn't
Well,
even know
Barry,
about that.
yeah, well, I was kind of surprised when I first heard about it myself, because apparently, the main issue between the breakup between Ozzy and Sabbath was between Ozzy and Tony.
I wonder if Sherrod reached out or like Geezer reached out and said, I want to do this, or they reached out to Geezer and said, hey, can you do this?
I'm
Do
not
the
too
album and the
sure.
tour.
Probably the two people you want to ask is probably either Sharon or Geezer on how that came about.
Well, here, I'm going to send up the link to the shelf so
Mhm.
we can get one of them on right now. Would you freak the hell out if Geezer Butler popped on the show right now?
It would be nice, but
Well,
unfortunately,
you
I doubt
better
he's
fucking
going to
put your
join.
suit on, asshole. You better get your shit together.
Well,
Like, hey,
I did meet Geezer when he performed at the shelter in Detroit on the
yeah, you got
Sunday
to tell
night.
him that. You got to tell him
And
that. Be like,
he's
hey,
he may, but he may not remember because this was back in 1997, a
okay.
few
So
months after meeting Bill Ward.
back with the fourth singer. So what year, what era are we getting into right now with the fourth
Well, we're
singer?
getting into Well, we're getting into a period where Tony Iommi would later become the head honcho for Black Sabbath altogether. Seventh Star came out after the beginning of 1986, and it was first listed as Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi. And I was like, people were like, "Huh? What's going on here?"
On the album, it
And
said that.
yep, and on the record, on the label inside as well. Apparently, what it was supposed to have been a Tony Iommi solo record, but the record labels they had, Vertical and Warner Brothers, said, hey, make it a Black Sabbath album. It'll sell more copies. Tony reluctantly went on with the agreement, and unfortunately, it didn't really sell that much. It was about the around the hundreds range in the Billboard Top 200, while Ozzy's Ultimate Sin album, which came out later that year, will go into the top 10. And a lot of people are coming down on Tony Iommi for what they call dragging the Sabbath name through a pile of crap. In fact, Ronnie James Dio even spoke harshly about that. He said that if Iommi is doing right now doesn't land him in hell, I don't know what else will. He basically took a bunch of strangers and called it Black Sabbath. Now, Seventh Star featured vocalist Glenn
Wait.
Hughes, who used to be with Deep Purple.
So on Seven Star, there was no Bill Ward and no Geezer Butler.
Nope. It was just Tony Iommi, Dan Spitz on bass, Eric Singer on drums, Glenn Hughes on vocalists, and Jeff Nichols on keyboards. He's been with them since 1980. He passed away a couple years ago, but he was always the main keyboard player to all these studio albums and tours that Black Sabbath would do after 1980. And on a musical note, Seventh Star was a pretty damn good record. Awesome production, good songs, but it really wasn't Black Sabbath. I mean, but then again, it was intended to be a Black Sabbath record. It was supposed to be a Tony Iommi solo release. But you know how record companies are. They'll get you to change something around so they figure
On the
probably
album
bring in more
cover,
money. Yep.
on the album cover, does it say have the Black Sabbath logo and it says featuring Tony Iommi or
Yep,
Wow.
absolutely. Right on the top and on the bottom it says the album, the name of the album. You know what? This is not the first time this has happened. Let me point this out. A couple years earlier, members of the band Yes were going to form a new project called Cinema. Then, when their record label decided, hey, call it Yes and see what happens. Tony went with that direction, and lo and behold, 90125 became a massive hit on MTV and radio. And around the same year, 1986, members of Bad Company with a different singer, Brian Howell, they were going to call themselves a different name, but the record label they were under told them, hey, call it Bad Company, see where it goes. And fortunately, it was but then again, that's how record labels are. Do whatever they can to sell more copies, sell more, no matter what. Sorry about that, folks. All right. Now, here's a little thing here that I need to point out. Hughes was going through drugs and alcohol issues around that time, so he got let go during the midst of that tour, and they brought in somebody else, Ray Gillian, who was not related to Ian. He would later fill in the rest of that tour, and sadly, he would pass away in 1993. Apparently, it was complications from AIDS. And let's see here. Let me look up something. Yeah. In fact, I need to point this out. In Detroit, when they played, there was a story that Hughes was so messed up, he messed up the lyrics to the song Black Sabbath. And that's been talked about throughout the ages. And it happened in my hometown of Detroit, of all places. Wow. Now, the following year, 1987, Iommi would run into a singer named Tony Martin. And later, The Eternal Idol was released. It was her last album for Warner Brothers here in the States. And I heard a couple of tracks of that album. It's pretty hard-driven music there, but at the same time, it just felt like it's there, and it's not really kind of baffled by it. I mean, come on. It just really wasn't. It was good, but not good enough, I guess you could say. Because I was expecting another powerful production like Seventh Star, and however, it really wasn't like that. But then again, many albums had to be different from the other. If you get on sounding the same on each record, you're going to become a self parody. So that's about it. Why are you there, man?
Yeah, I'm listening, brother.
Yeah, right. There you go. Now, in 1989, they would later sign with IRS Records, the same record label that would have the Go-Go's, Wall of Voodoo. And around that time, they had a thing called IRS Metal. Black Sabbath released Headless Cross with singer Tony Martin, drummer Cozy Powell, who used to play with Whitesnake, Rainbow, and the bass player Neil Murray. That album was definitely leaned towards the dark side.
Was there any of these on the radio, these songs, or no? They just kept playing
No.
Paranoid and Iron Man and
Heaven and Hell. Yes. 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 There wasn't really playing any of these songs on the radio, unfortunately. I guess the radio stations like, oh, we got to stick to what the people out there know. We got to stick to Paranoid, War Pigs, Heaven and Hell. We got to stick to the main songs that everybody knows by heart. If we play something different, they'll switch on to another station and we'll lose listenership and profits. That's how they do it. But Headless Cross, going back to that album, which came out in 1989, that was a very dark record, very dark laced record. Songs like Kill in the Spirit World, songs like Devil and Daughter, the title cut. Listen to the lyrics of that song, and you can see how dark they were going towards that direction. Now, the production of that album, which was overseen by Iommi and Powell, without a question, the production on that album was most definitely powerful. But alas, the tour that followed really wasn't that good. It was kind of like a package tour that they were doing. This metal band, that metal band, this other metal band, and then Black Sabbath afterwards as a headliner. It's kind of like a predecessor to Lollapalooza when you think about it. In fact, it wasn't.
During all of this time when obviously DL left, was Iommi the songwriter?
Yeah, he was trying to be. Yeah, he was mainly
were any of those, were any of those singers contributing to the lyrics too, or was it all Tony Iommi?
They were. No, they were contributing as well.
Yes.
Every single one of them, absolutely. Now, the following year, 1990, they would release Tyr, Tyr, an album based on Nordic mythology. Now, have you ever watched episodes of the show Vikings that ran on the History Channel, YR?
No, but I know what you're talking about. Is it same? Is it still? Is it new? It's still on, or is it like from like 2015?
I'm not too sure if it's. I'm not too sure if it is or isn't.
I said, is it still on, or is it from 2015?
It was 2015.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking so. But if you ever watch episodes of that show, this is the album to listen to while watching.
Because when someone says, "Oh, that was 10 years ago," well, that's like 2015, and 2015, 2016 doesn't seem like that long ago, right?
Pretty much there. When you think about it, 10 years ago, hard to believe time went by that damn good.
Time after time.
Mm-hmm. But either way, Tyr is a pretty good album. The songs like Odin's Court, Valhalla, Heaven in Black, Jerusalem, Feels Good to Me. It's a very powerful album without any question. And I guess they wanted to get away from the satanic imagery into this other direction, which was a good choice, I should say. Now, after that, the band would reunite with Ronnie James Dio. They would do a tour together. Around the same time, Ozzy was doing his farewell tour, air quotes. And Ozzy around that time was misdiagnosed with multiple sclerosis. That's when that's why it was originally billed as his farewell tour after No More Tears came out. Now, somewhere along the way, the record label called up and said, "Hey, what's going on here? Well, Ozzy has multiple sclerosis." And then the label said, "Get a second opinion from a different doctor." And lo and behold, Ozzy was misdiagnosed. But you cannot really, so he had to go along with the farewell tour thing because he would remain hidden away for the next couple of years until he came out in 1995, I meant to say, with the Retirement Sucks tour. Now, after this, about going back to Black Sabbath, Dio, Vinny Appice, Geezer, and Tony would record the album Dehumanizer, which came out in 1992. And we know the hit song for that album, Time Machine, that was featured in the Wayne's World movie earlier that year. Other tracks include Too Late, I. Definitely good album to check out, that's for sure. The song TV Crimes is a take on evangelism, televangelism, I meant to say. Computer God, the lead off track, is a badass without a question.
Brian, can you play that on the stream, that Time Machine song?
I'm unable to at the moment because problem is, so I'm doing this from my phone and
Okay.
do that. But definitely look it up here on YouTube.
Would I have seen it? Would I have heard it before? Or
Mine on,
like you could tell,
well,
like when you're watching the movie Wayne's
mhm.
World, can you tell that it's Dio singing?
Yeah, well, by the way, I mean, this is not the first time this happened. You may remember the movie Heavy Metal from 1981.
No.
Oh, you gotta look that up. The Mob Rules, the song for the album, the same name, was featured on that album, the soundtrack album, and in the movie as well. Definitely check out the movie Heavy Metal in general. You will not be disappointed, dude. All right. Now, after Dehumanizer, things fell apart between Dio and Sabbath once again. Diva said that they ran their course with Dio. It's time to move on. Around that time, the original lineup was supposed to get back together then. After that reunion show that they did in Costa Mesa, California, Ozzy invited Black Sabbath to perform, and of course, we know the situation came about. Dio refused to be there because of all the slack that Ozzy had given Dio throughout the few years. So they got Rob Halford from Judas Priest to take over on vocals for those two shows, which, by the way, I'm sure you would agree he did a great job at doing. And lo and behold, Ozzy was now off the road and Black Sabbath were back in structure. Now, in 1994, the Sabs will reunite with Tony Martin once again. And this time they had Geezer Butler involved. And he got a new drummer, Bobby Rondinelli, who used to drum with Richie Blackmore's Rainbow. Cross Purposes came out that year, 1994. Some good songs from that record, like Evil Eye, Crown of Thorns, Psychophobia, Virtual Death. A lot of interesting songs. Cardinal Sin. Very interesting album, without any question. Now, a year after that, Geezer would depart once again, and they would bring back Neil Murray and drummer Cozy Powell once more, and they would release Forbidden, an album that was really, really lackluster. It was probably one of the all-time flop albums Sabbath did because
And what
one,
year?
it's 1995. And the lead-off track for that album was called Illusion of Power. and it featured a spoken piece by Ice-T, the rapper. And the reason for that is because Ernie C, the lead guitarist for Ice-T's Body Count band, was the producer of that production. He was a producer of that whole album. But that album now is really wasn't that good. In fact, Iommi, when they put together the box set a couple years ago, which was a big seller, there would later be a remix by Iommi himself. And that was it for Tony Martin. Then, of course, Ozzy would do his second Ozfest tour in 1997. He got Terry, Geezer, and of course Tony on the front, and Black Sabbath was back together without Bill Ward. They didn't ask him. And from then on, the original Black Sabbath lineup were to keep going.
Well, when did I forgot the name of the tour?
Mm-hmm.
Not the end, because that was the Ozzy era. But so tell me the story with what was the lineup when this was probably in the 2000s or 2010s
Mm-hmm.
when they didn't use the name Black Sabbath. It was called Heaven and
Heaven
Hell.
and Hell. Heaven and Hell. Yes, it was the basically it was a Mob Rules lineup. Remember, Bill Ward was still with Sabbath when Deal first joined, but he will later depart in the midst of the tour they did together back in 1980, singing himself, "I cannot work with any other singer other than Ozzy." That's when he got Vinny Appice, the brother of Carmine Appice, the drum legend, and that's when he got things going there. Now, I'm not too sure who owns the name Black Sabbath, but I guess to understand, they decided they couldn't call it Black Sabbath because, obviously the Black Sabbath had done multiple reunion tours left and right. All right, there.
You know what year that was? The Heaven and Hell live tour?
Now, I believe it was in 2000. I believe it was in 2007, up until about 2010 when Ronnie James Dio passed away
Oh.
from stomach cancer. And I found the box set. I was talking about this on one of my videos. Anno Domini, 1989 to 1995. It's a box set by Black Sabbath, released in May of 2022. It included 4 of the 5 albums that Tony Martin sang with: Headless Cross, Tear, Cross Purposes, and a remixed version of Forbidden. And this is the first time those albums have been officially reissued out here in the States and worldwide. All right. Now, the box set does not include the Eternal Idol from 1987, which was Martin's debut with the Sabs. That album was released on a different label, as I mentioned. Warner Brothers here in the States, Vertical in the UK. And while IRS Records released the albums from Forbidden and Headless Cross, Dehumanizer, which featured Ryan James Dio instead of Martin, was released on IRS in the UK, while Reprise Records here in the States released it here in North America. Now, there was also a additional song added, Cloak and Dagger, from the Headless Cross sessions. It was previously available as a B-side to the single Headless Cross. It also appeared as a bonus track on the vinyl picture disc edition. What's the Use on Cross Purposes and Loser Gets It All on Forbidden were previously available as bonus tracks of the Japanese editions of their albums. while the later also appeared on the 1996 compilation album The Sabbath Stones. Tear is the only disc for the box set with no bonus material.
How much is that?
Well, let's see here. I think it was probably about $50, I guess it was. I guess it all depends on what format you get it, whether it's CD or vinyl. If it's cassette, maybe so. That'd be interesting. That's
Do you
for
have
sure.
do you have a record player?
I do, yes. And now, by the way, those 4 albums are on sale on vinyl individually. They made that announcement earlier this year.
I saw on the Black Sabbath website they had the first album like $20 or something, but it was sold out.
Mm.
They came out with like a new line of the first album like merch, so it's like you know that the witch woman standing in front of
Yes,
the thorn, but it's like they
Louisa
have like
Livingstone. Yeah,
they have
Louisa Livingstone. That's her name.
they have umbrellas, they have shirts, hoodies, all that. Like
Hell,
with that,
there was even shoes. There was even shoes with that image on there. Now, the thing I want to know is, is the model for that album cover Louise Livingstone?
Lou
Is she going to get
Ferrigno.
any blue? What?
Is she still alive?
Yes, she is. She's 65 years old, and she performs, like electronic ambient music under a different name.
What?
Yeah, she does. Yeah, believe it or not, I've listened to some of her stuff.
Wow.
I found it here on YouTube accidentally. It's like, wow, interesting. A lot of the comments on one of her pieces, like, Ozzy brought me here, Sabbath brought me here.
Yo, did the Heaven and Hell album or band come out with an album, or was it just a tour?
Yeah, they did come out with an album, The Devil You Know, and it featured the members of the band as part of the title, Dio, Iommi, Butler, Appice. And that was released on Rhino Records that year. Mm-hmm. Now, here in the States, go back to the box set. The box set that I told you about went up to number 15 on the Billboard's Top Hard Rock Albums. And on the US vinyl albums release, it was on number 11. US top album sales at Billboard here in the States was number 10. And in UK rock and metal albums, it was number 1. Interesting. If you're ever interested in buying the box set, this is the one to get, YR, without any question.
What, it has all the albums?
Not all the albums. Like I mentioned, The Eternal Idol was originally released on the different label. This is the 4 albums they put out while on IRS Records here in the States. And up until now, those albums were unavailable. They were talked about, but yet there's hardly any copies around because I'm not too sure if IRS Records is still in existence. In fact, let me look it up IRS Records right now, to be exact. See what happened to that record label. Listen. There we go. Yeah. Yeah, it was founded in 1979 by Miles Copeland III, who was the brother of Stuart Copeland, the drummer for the Police, and Jay Boberg. It started in 1979, and he had a lot of new wave acts on their roster. Fine Young Cannibals, Wall of Voodoo, The Go-Go's, REM started with that label. It was, and it was apparently relaunched in 2012. And in fact, unfortunately, it was
When did REM start?
REM started in the mid '80s in Athens, Georgia, And they were on, as I mentioned, they were on IRS records for quite a number of years until they signed with the big
weren't they
time
like
record.
bigger? Weren't they bigger in the '90s or no?
They were a lot more bigger in the 90s, that's for
Yeah.
sure. That's when everything alternative was the main thing around that point. But back then in the 80s, they were like college rock, favorites.
College. What the hell is college rock?
College rock. These are kids that will listen to stuff that
Never
people in
heard.
college
I've been listening to music for over 25 years. I've never heard that song. That's
term.
yeah.
Well, remember, that's basically what we call bands who are favorites among college kids. Whether it's early Pink Floyd or something like REM, as I mentioned. I mean, like when you think about it,
What about
a lot of college kids.
what about the Beastie Boys or the Offspring?
Well, Offspring is alternative punk. Beastie Boys was alternative rap.
Well, now the Offspring is college rock. The hell are you talking about? Because someone in the chat, who would you go? I mean, come on.
Well, the Beastie Boys was alternative rap, needless to say. Remember, they
All right,
started
but
out.
now what about? Let's go back to the Offspring. Though the Offspring is college rock, Brown.
Well, either way, a lot of college.
Sublime is college rock.
Mm.
Let me see what other names come to mind. Green Day. Green Day is college rock, essentially.
Mm.
It's a subgenre of a genre. It's three subgenres.
I think we may have came up with a new musical genre, ladies and gentlemen, just by pure accident.
You watched the comedy movies and college movies of the 2000s and like the 90s. You like the American Pie soundtrack. What's the soundtrack to Road Trip? What's the soundtrack to? And I bet you're going to get your Green Days, your Offsprings, and
Yeah, but there's no college movie like any other college movie. Like, yeah, but think about this. Probably the top-notch college movie out there, National Lampoon's Animal House. If you ever saw that movie, you got to see that movie.
I thought you were going to say. Listen, I thought you were going to say one of the two. I thought you were going to say.
I never really saw any of the American Pie movies, unfortunately.
I thought you were going to say Breakfast Club, and I thought you were going to say Fast Times at Ridgemont High. But that's more of a high school.
Well, I saw Fast Times at Ridgemont High. That's definitely for sure. That was a popular favorite. That's where we got to know who Sean Penn is. All right.
College Rock by Dr. Brown. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we said, I think we just started a new music genre just by pure accident.
Yo, we gotta use that as a show topic in a couple weeks. College rock.
Okay, let me.
And Pink Floyd definitely is not college rock.
Well, it's a favorite along the college kids, that's for sure.
Oh, when? In the 70s?
Remember, 70s or the later 60s, before they made it big with Dark Side of the Moon. In fact, Ummagumma, that album that came out in 1969, that was recorded in Mother's College in England that year. 4 songs they did that were on that album. First was the live album, side 1 and 2. Side 3 and 4 was experimental pieces, featured all 4 members. And I just looked it up. College rock is rock music played on student-run university and college campus radio stations located in the United States and in Canada in the 1980s and 1990s. Which, by the way, brings me up this particular thing. There is a University of Windsor located in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. one of the guys that was a friend of mine. His name is Tim. He lives, I guess, somewhere in the Windsor area in Canada. He invited me over to this radio station called CJAM, which is in the
MTV.
University of Windsor. He had a mean thing called Mind Over Acid, which played a lot of industrial, a lot of goth music, and eventually he was later teaching me the ropes on how to run things, like, just in case he was unable to make it, because the show had many different fill-in hosts, me being one of them. All right, go ahead.
What, you were on the radio show?
Yes, it was Mind Over Acid, University of Windsor, CJAM 91.5 FM. And the
Wait,
problem with that,
so you used to be on a college radio show.
yeah, a
Is that
couple of times. Often, a couple of times as a co-host, one or two times as an official fill-in host.
And you had your long hair and you wore a suit, or?
No, it's just I just had my hair, your regular clothing, just came in. They're not going to see it. They're going to hear your voice either way and know what kind of tunes you're going to be spinning. In fact, I remember there was this one cat who would call in begging for goth music from females. You always play male goth music. How about the female singers out there? Switchblade Sympathy, Switchblade Sympathy being one of them. So we fulfill that need.
All right.
All right, there.
Is that all of the singers?
Yep, those are the singers, other singers from Black Sabbath. And from then on, it was just Ozzy all the way. Of course, the 13th album would later be recorded and released in 2013. And as I mentioned last time, the end of that album, Dear Father, ends the end of that track, and the closing track would end out with a thunder and a rainstorm. And it will also it kind of like it closed out that chapter of metal music history. Because you remember the first Sabbath album started with the exact same thing. All right.
All right. Are you doing a I saw you did you do a DJ set like midweek or something?
That was last week when I was testing my OBS. What I had to do was I had to turn down the video bit rates on my OBS in the output section to a much decent level. That was probably one of the big reasons why I was having those issues like I was having. And I just had a chance. I restreamed a power dub set throughout that whole evening, and everything went well.
All right, Dr. Music, plug your channel, please. And will you be doing a DJ set this weekend?
Yes, this coming Friday evening at about 11 p.m. Eastern Time, I'll be live with a new dark industrial techno set for your listening pleasure. On Saturday night, I'll be premiering the new techno set for your, of course, for your listening pleasure at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And on Sunday night, 11 p.m. Eastern Time, once again, I'll be live with a brand new dark soundscape set that I worked on late last night. Look forward to seeing you there.
All right, Dr. Brother. Thank you. Next week, we'll be diving into Ozzy's solo guitarist.
Oh, definitely, yes. All right, there. Thank you. And also don't forget to subscribe to this channel that we're on right now, Music Maniax 2025. All right.
Thank you, mijo.
All right. Thank you, YR.
Get well
Take
soon.
care.
Go to the doctor. Do you get a discount since you're a doctor if you go to the doctor?
No. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I usually get over colds very quickly.
All right.
All right. Bye-bye, dudes.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.